So now we're going to talk about the actual techniques of sewing with knits. The first thing to always do is pre-wash your fabric, and it's just a good recommendation to wash it how you would normally wash it at home. So if you'd wash it on hot or warm, go ahead and do that. If you would dry it, and the fabric can shrink quite a bit whenever you first get it home, and so you don't want to make a project, have it be a perfect fit, and then the first time you wash it, it's ruined, because I have had that happen before. So definitely pre-wash your fabric. And now the next thing we're going to talk about is on your machine, down under the foot right here, it has these little, they're kind of rough, they're metal, they have like little grooves in them. They're called the feed dogs. And so what these do is actually they move up and down and they pull your fabric through. So the bottom of the plate right here mine has 2 feed dogs, and I don't know, you probably can't see, but as I move this needle up and down, you can kind of watch the fabric go. And I actually have 3 more in the back, so mine has quite a few feed dogs. Some machines will have more or less than others. And on the presser foot right here, it does not have any. So that's one of the problems you can run into with knits, is the bottom of the fabric is getting pulled through by these feed dogs and the top of the fabric is not. So you just really want to make sure as you are feeding your fabric through, I like to put one hand here on top and just gently guide the fabric through. You don't want to push it through and you don't want to pull it at all. Or if you have something kind of heavy, like a lot of fabric you're working with, you might actually even kind of lift it up a little bit so that even just the weight of the fabric can pull on your fabric and cause a little bit of a stretch, which will cause a wavy finish. So to get started, we will just do a couple stitches and then use your reverse button or lever and do a couple back stitches. That's just going to make sure that your fabric doesn't come undone, that the stitch stays. And then you'll sew down. Now, you might notice, especially like this fabric is perfect to show because it's striped. And so starting out, I have all my stripes matched up. But as I sew, let's say that the bottom is getting fed through a little bit more quickly than the top. So I'm intentionally pulling on the top just a little just to show. Then you're gonna have your stripes all mismatched. So what I like to do, if you notice it just barely getting off just a little bit, you can raise your presser foot and just kind of line things back up really carefully. And if you do that as you go, you typically won't have like a really noticeable spot where it looks like your fabric's got out of line. If you wait until you're at the very end and you have, an inch extra fabric on top than you do on bottom and try to correct it, then you're really going to notice at that point. But if you just kind of go really slowly and as you go, make sure everything's in line, and then go down a little bit, kind of check it, make sure everything's staying in line. And that's where, once again, if you get off, you can just raise your presser foot, gently scoot the top fabric to get everything lined back up perfectly, put it back down and keep going. So that's kind of a way to make sure that everything's going through at the same rate and one isn't feeding through a lot faster than the other. So I'll just quickly go all the way to the end here because I want to show on here how the fabric this stitch is going to allow the woven fabric to stretch. So here, this stretch right here, see how as much as I can stretch the fabric, the thread is stretching along with it. You don't hear any little popping noise like any thread breaking. And then if I open it up, see right here, you can see how it got off a little bit, probably from whenever I was pulling the top thread. But if we go back up to the top, when we started right here, you can see like the lines are all perfectly in line. So that's kind of the goal whenever, especially if you're working with a print or a stripe, you want to really keep everything in line really nice and neat and make sure one fabric isn't going through more quickly than the other.